I guess while we're waiting, I will share with you a little bit of housekeeping stuff. So for those who aren't familiar with our ceremony, we will have an inside portion of the ceremony. After that, we will ask the family to just stick around. We're going to take a quick photograph with our elected officials and ceremony participants. Then we're all going to move outside. If everybody could just gather in the front. And then we will have our flag raising portion of the ceremony outside. And then we will conclude outside. I do believe that there's been some refreshments set up in the boardroom adjacent to this room. Thanks to Bridget Ryder for doing that, our clerk of the Board of Supervisors. You'll also have noted the display case out in the hallway. That is put together by our fantastic county historian back there, Lauren Roberts, the lovely lady back there, and her team. And that will be here in honor of Jack for 30 days. So, yes. And you may have seen her around a little because she's pretty popular these days. Lauren is heading up our county's efforts to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the Revolution and particularly the battles of Saratoga. She's been doing a fantastic job with that. We have a lot of great events coming up, including our siege weekend and maybe even a surprise at some point, which I'm not gonna say at this point, but check out Saratoga250.com. You can sign up for all the email lists and alerts and check out the calendar. There's so much great stuff going on to celebrate our history and our heritage. And it's a big effort. And Lauren and her team are doing a great job. So we're really proud to work with her on that as well. So I think we're ready. All right. Craig's back. So we're ready. I had to. Well, folks, my name is Frank McClellan. I'm the director of the Saratoga County Veterans Agency, and I have the honor of presiding over our monthly Honor Deceased Veterans program. At this time, I'd ask that you please rise for our Pledge of Allegiance, led by members of our Saratoga County American Legion and soon to be national historian for the American Legion, a really big deal, Dave Lockhart here from Corinth. Yeah. And then we will have our invocation by another very special individual, Korean War veteran and our chaplain, Paul O'Keefe. For which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Once again, our Supreme Commander in heaven, we thank you for giving us this opportunity to honor and pay our respects to the Saratoga County Deceased Veteran of the Month. For the month of August, we are honoring John Jack J. O'Brien from the town of Wilton. Jack served in the Korean War with the United States Army. He was discharged as a dedicated technical sergeant in 1952. And most of the wonderful speakers up here on the dais have heard me say this before. I've known the precious veteran we are honoring today. And this is one of those days. Jack O'Brien was a very personal friend who served in the Korean War. We were both officers in the Korean War Veterans Association, Adirondack Chapter 60. Jack in charge of keeping the records of our missing in action and prisoners of war, sisters and brothers. And myself, I was just a chaplain and the final commander of our chapter. And before I recite my prayer, I want to say thank you to Mer Eggleston, our Korean War veteran, his daughter Debbie, and Mrs. Carol Waldron, who's a Korean War widow of the best, a good friend I had. Our Heavenly Father, we are here before you this afternoon with heavy hearts and deep gratitude as we gather to honor and remember our beloved veteran, John Jack J. O'Brien, who has departed from this earthly realm. We acknowledge the sacrifice Jack made in service of our country, laying down his precious life to protect the freedoms and the values that we all hold dear. In this afternoon of reflection, we seek your comfort and peace for Jack's family and friends who are mourning Jack's loss. And Jack's 6 children, our Heavenly Father tells us that when we lose someone we love, we must learn not to live without them, but to live with the love and the precious memories that Jack left behind. And I know he left plenty. God bless you.
Thank you, Paul. Please be seated. Before we move on, and I do want to make a special mention about our Korean War veterans, and we're real lucky to have 2 of you gentlemen here, Mr. Eggleston, and of course our chaplain, Paul. Been at this game for a little while now. It'll be 15 years next month. And I can remember when I first started here at the county, and, you know, unfortunately, their numbers were deep. It was, I don't know of a tighter knit veteran organization in the area from the outside looking in than this Korean War chapter. When they came to events, you knew exactly who they were, obviously by the Blue Blazers, and there was a crew of them. And a lot of times they were led by the late, great Gene Corsal, who had a big part in this program and a lot of things to honor veterans throughout the county. And I remember Gene, and I remember a lot of them, and they were great men, and I appreciated their counsel and them just being there. And they were, you know, so we've got a couple of them left with us, and we appreciate it. Paul's here every month, no matter what, and we appreciate him so much. Today, as we gather to honor the men and women whose service has shaped our nation, our monthly ceremony here reminds us that freedom is not an accident. It's a responsibility, and it's carried on the shoulders of those who are willing to serve. Real people who answered the call, endured hardship, and carried out their duty with honor. Today, we recognize one such man from the town of Wilton, Technical Sergeant Jack O'Brien, a veteran of the Korean War who served as communications chief with B Battery, 68th Antiaircraft Artillery Gun Battalion, a unit whose story is as remarkable as it is rarely told. Jack entered the Army on January 5th, 1949, and by the summer of 1950, the world had changed. War had broken out in Korea, and communist forces from the north deep into the south. U.S. and UN forces were scrambling to stop the advance. Jack and the 68th shipped from Fort Lewis, Washington in July of 1950 on board a merchant vessel that made an initial stop in Japan. There's actually a photograph of that vessel out there in the cabinet. The voyage was a rough one, and as I read an account from another veteran on board, he recalled that the ship was disabled during a terrible storm, and they had to be rescued by ocean-going tugboats from Japan. They landed later in Busan Harbor in Korea that September, arriving during one of the war's most critical moments. At first, the battalion's mission was air defense, but nothing about the terrain made that easy. Maps were outdated, and in many places, there simply were no roads. Rice paddies covered the old paths, and the few bridges that did exist were built for ox carts, not 90-millimeter guns and trucks. Still, the men of the 68th found their way to the hilltops and prepared their positions. Then came a change. Just days after arriving, the battalion received new orders. Instead of shooting at enemy aircraft, they would now serve as field artillery in direct support of infantry. This was unfamiliar territory. Most of the officers had little to no experience in that role, but under good leadership, they set up crash training in the field and they made it work. On September 14th, they moved into position near Taegu under the cover of darkness. The very next day, the 68th became the first of its kind to fire its guns in combat in Korea. From then on, they were in it. B Battery supported the breakout of the 1st Cavalry Division, operating in areas like the bowling alley and the Taegu racetrack, names that to those who served there still carry weight. When the division pushed towards Tabu Dong, Jack's battery moved forward into the riverbed and came under enemy artillery fire. Battery A took the battalion's first casualties with 6 men wounded, but they held the line. One enemy gun that had fired on them was soon located and destroyed by their own fire. The battalion earned a Korean Presidential Unit citation along with 1st Cav for its performance in that campaign. Jack's unit continued to move forward as the front advanced. They leapfrogged from the bowling alley over the Old Burma Road to Waigwan and the Naktan River, firing on enemy tanks, artillery, and troops, often seeing the result of their own fire as they moved over the same ground just hours later. At times, the 68th supported the 24th Infantry Division, and at other times, the 27th British Brigade. When friendly patrols were in the area, they reduced their firing, but still kept active by sending out foot patrols of their own, capturing enemy prisoners who had been bypassed on the fast-moving advances. This became standard operating procedure for the unit. And when higher command asked for help hauling supplies for a few days, Jack's unit stepped up again, forming a provisional truck company that operated for over 6 weeks. They were often among the first Americans to enter newly liberated towns and were personally commended by the I Corps commander for their work. But the effort wasn't without cost. The unit's own trucks and equipment suffered, which they felt in later stages of the war. In October, they regrouped near Kaesong to repair vehicles, train new men, and prepare for what was coming next. Then, in November, they moved north to Sinanju, where they once again provided field artillery support, this time for the 24th Division near the Changchan River. When the Chinese launched their massive surprise attack, the battalion found itself directly in the path of that offensive. At one point, a large Chinese cavalry force tried to push down the Changju Road, but was completely broke up by friendly airstrikes, just a few thousand yards from the 68th command post. This all happened in the first 3 months. Later, the Americans broke out of Pusan. They landed at Incheon, forcing the North Korean army into full retreat. Once the front stabilized along the 38th parallel, Jack's unit was sent back to Pusan, where it resumed its anti-aircraft role. Throughout all of this, Jack remained a steady hand, keeping communication lines open between forward observers and gun crews. His role was vital. When communication broke down, missions failed. Thanks to him and soldiers like them, they did not. Jack's original tour had ended while he was in Korea, but like many others, he was involuntarily extended for an additional year. He didn't ask for recognition, but the country gave it. And for his service, he received the Korean Service Medal with five campaigns, 5 bronze campaign stars representing 5 separate combat campaigns that he supported. He was finally discharged on January 4th, 1952 at the rank of Technical Sergeant. So today we honor Jack O'Brien, not just for where he served, but how he served, with resolve, with humility, and with a willingness to step into unfamiliar roles because the mission required it. He and his fellow soldiers in the 68th remind us that victory isn't always achieved by the best plan. Sometimes it's achieved by the best people, those who adapt, step up, and keep moving forward. And also to Jack and to every veteran who's ever served in Korea in particular, but in silence and hardship and in honor, we remember you And in Saratoga County, you are not forgotten. This time, I'd like to introduce the supervisor for the town of Wilton to make a presentation on behalf of the town, Supervisor John Lant.
I'd like to welcome everybody, thank everybody for coming to honor a very great person today, John Jack O'Brien. When I first met him, I called him Mr. O'Brien. He said, my name's Jack, so that's how I'm going to do it today. It's a great honor. It's a great honor for me to be here today and talk about Jack. Jack was a true American, true patriot. I've known Jack for many years in my business. I sold him a lot of cars, trucks, did all his service work. I think why I thought so much of Jack is because Jack was a lot like my father. They were same size, both fought in foreign wars, wore those old timer caps the old timers wear. They were both men of few words, but when they spoke, you better listen. Jack was a man of the highest integrity, honesty, and values. A man that always put his family first. Jack was a man, if you listened to his opinion, you usually walked away a lot smarter. Having been fortunate enough to meet all of Jack's children, I can see Jack's beliefs are in them. They are all great people. And I believe they instilled Jack's beliefs into their own children. I get on my computer every morning and look at the obituaries. I guess you do that at a certain age. When I saw Jack's name in there, I said I'd get through this, but I don't know. It really bothered me. I lost a great friend. And you can always write messages at the funeral home on their sites. I wrote that I am so sorry for the family. I also wrote that Jack was the last of real men. Two more reasons for what I believe in that is when Jack's wife got sick and got bedridden, I talked to him. He said, she will always be in our house and I will always take care of her for the rest of my life. When COVID came out, called me to see about getting someone up to their house to give her a COVID shot. I said, what about you, Jack? He was only worried about her, not himself. I said, Jack, I think they got 2 shots. We'll get you 1 too. That's a real man. Family first. Jack was a Korean War veteran, and I was a fireman. And whenever the firemen marched the Elks Day parade in Saratoga, I always saw Jack probably marching with the Korean War veterans. Jack must have been in his 70s or 80s then, marching while the rest of us firemen were riding in trucks. I could go on and tell you what kind of person Jack was and what he meant to me. But there's other people who want to speak. And they speak a lot better than I do. I want to thank Frank McClement and his staff for always doing a great job for our veterans. A very special thanks to Chaplain O'Keefe and the other veterans. They always do a great job for our veterans. And I'd like to thank all our past and present veterans, as I feel everyone here feels the same way, for what they did for us, the sacrifices they made, and what they live with every day. Can you imagine how we would be living today if it wasn't for our veterans? I'd like to thank Teresa and Bridget for all they do. I want Jack's children to know that the town board honored Jack on August 7th. We have a proclamation for all of you. And you should always thank God for the parents he gave you all. That's why you're all the great people you are. And I honestly know Jack is with us. He's looking down with a smile on his face. And he gave me the strength to get through this.
Thank you, Supervisor Lant. Been at this a little while, and don't sell yourself short. The jury's still out on whether anybody's better speaker than you are. We got a lot of time left here today. That being said, someone who is a great speaker and also an Army veteran, our chairman of the Board of Supervisors from the town of Clifton Park, Supervisor Phil Barrett.
Thank you, Frank. And I got to tell you, once in a while, I do follow John Lant at the podium, and he is a tough man to follow. So kudos, John. And, you know, to hear Paul and John speak about Jack, I didn't know Jack, my loss. But to hear how he inspired his friend. How he, I take back what I said before. I was only kidding. Where was I? I had a real touching moment there, John, and you just wrecked it. No, the inspiration that you see from Paul and Supervisor Lant, one of my favorite colleagues, is truly inspiring. I didn't get to know Jack, but just hearing these men of stature and experience speak about Jack, it's clear that he was somebody that had a great effect on everybody that he came in contact with. He's the type of guy that built this country and built this county. He is the epitome of the person that laid the foundation for our country to be great and for our county to be great. And I would presume that if we asked him what his greatest legacy was, it would be his 6 children and his family and his loving wife of 70 years, which is just truly unbelievable. He's obviously a man that dedicated himself to whatever he was doing. And we just, as a board of supervisors, are so honored to celebrate his service to the country, to the county, and celebrate with all of you, his loving family. We do have a couple of presentations. On behalf of all of my colleagues on the Saratoga County Board of Supervisors, I have a proclamation that we passed in Jack's honor. And I also have the Saratoga County Korean Veterans Medal. So it is my honor on behalf of all of my colleagues to present this to you. God bless you. And Jack will forever live in our hearts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I'd like to introduce our Saratoga County Clerk, Craig Hayner.
Thank you so much, Frank. It's really an honor to be here today. And what a tribute this is to Jack, to have this many people here today. It's really absolutely amazing. You know, we don't often talk about the forgotten war, right? It's something that has been part of the Korean War, or the Korean conflict at the time that they called it. because probably the nation was quite tired of war at that point, just a few years after World War II, call it a conflict. But those who were there certainly know that it was war. We lost 37,000 Americans in the Korean War. 92,000 were wounded. 8,000 went missing in action. And 1.3 million South Koreans sustained casualties, 415,000 dead. That's not even including the other side or the Allied forces. Several years ago, I had the opportunity to be the keynote speaker at a Korean War annual reunion for the Adirondack 60th chapter. And what an honor that really was. And when I went into that, I had an uncle who served in the Korean War, but I didn't really know a lot about it. But being asked to do that, I had to do a lot of research, and quite frankly, didn't feel worthy to even be there. But I was truly amazed at the camaraderie between all the Korean War veterans and their spouses. That's where I really got to know the friend Paul O'Keefe over here, and his friend Mary and Carol Waldron, which I knew a little bit before that. She graduated with my dad in high school. Mr. Mr. Eggleston. But as Frank said, the group was quite large at the time, and from what I understand, they don't get together anymore, and that's kind of sad. That only wasn't that long ago that got a chance to speak with them. But I think the most touching moment of that, as I reflect on that, was the South Koreans who came to that event to pay honor to the Korean War veterans for their freedom. That was the most touching moment for me, as they presented different gifts to those who served in Korea. And that was just absolutely astounding. We sometimes take our freedoms for granted, but those who live under oppression certainly do not. And when they have it, they know what they have. But today we honor John Jack O'Brien. Has a lifelong commitment to his country, but also to his family and his community. And that is, to me, what defines American exceptionalism, is what he represents. And so with that, I do have a special commemoration I've written for you that I'd like to present. And thank you for allowing us the honor and a privilege for dedicating this day to him. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. As many of you may know, our district attorney, Karen Hagan, has retired, and Assistant District Attorney Jennifer Buckley has stepped up as acting district attorney. And I want to thank Jennifer, because she was right on the phone to us to let us know that she really wanted to be here at this ceremony. And this is her first ceremony presenting on behalf of the district attorney's office. So I'd like to introduce Jennifer Buckley.
Good afternoon. This is actually my first ceremony, but Karen Hagan, who was the district attorney, this was one of the favorite parts of her job. She often talked about coming back from these ceremonies, and that they meant a lot to her. And I can very quickly see why that is true with the turnout today. It's very impressive to be part of such a wonderful, special ceremony, hearing the stories, hearing the personal stories and the legacies of so many individuals who have given so much to this country. And I think it is incredibly important to continue to tell their stories, to pass the stories down from generation to generation. So I wanted to say thank you to the O'Brien family for sharing his legacy with us, his story with us. And certainly it is an opportunity for all of us to reflect and to give gratitude for his sacrifice and his service, because it, again, has helped build the community that we have. So on behalf of the district attorney's office, we just have a letter to present to you. And again, thank you for sharing your father with us today.
Thank you, Jennifer. At this time, I'd like to introduce our Assemblywoman from the 113th Assembly District, Carrie Warner.
Thank you. And thank you for allowing us the privilege to honor your father and your family member for his service, not just to the country, but to our community. I often ponder when we do these ceremonies and I see the age of the men and women who enter military service and go overseas to fight on our behalf. And I think, wow, a 20-year-old who has the sense of patriotism, the sense of duty already instilled in him, and he makes the choice to go fight on our behalf. And then you think about how much courage he must have had, listening to Frank talk about the early experiences that his company faced when they were in country. And you realize that that is where character is formed. It's formed in the crucible of, country has evolved and fewer people are entering military service. The veterans play such an important role in conveying to the next generation those character-based values of courage and patriotism and duty, and commitment to community and country. And so this ceremony gives us the opportunity to highlight one of our community members who, for the years of his life, that he provided that role model in his family and in his neighborhood and in the broader community, so that the next generation who might not go off to war to fight on our behalf would still see a role model who had those values and could inspire them. And certainly Jack was one of them. I was not privileged to have an opportunity to meet him, but with people who speak for him, Paul O'Keefe and John Lant, I can certainly tell that he was a man to be admired. And I thank you very much for giving us this honor to be able to recognize him and commemorate his service for generations to come. Thank you. And I too have a proclamation.
Thank you. I'd now like to introduce our New York State Senator representing the 44th Senate District, Senator Jim Tedisco.
Thank you so much. Well, I, like my colleagues here, are truly honored to have you here to honor Jack O'Brien. We're so appreciative for his service. And when you look at his biography, you have to define him as a very special person. And I'm not surprised of the things he's accomplished and what he did for our nation, because he lived in a special county, Saratoga County. He lived in a special town, Wilton. He built a beautiful, special family, and he came back from his service. And by the way, by extension, as we honor Jack, every time we come here in this wonderful one of 62 counties, and by the way, when we call it special, check those other 62 counties. Yes, there are some of them who honor their veterans, but I don't think you'll find a better county that honors their veterans to the extent that Saratoga County does. So I think Mr. McClellan, our director here, and all of my colleagues here deserve a round of applause for what they do for our veterans here in Saratoga County. And as we honor Jack, by extension, we honor all the veterans who are here today. The most courageous and compassionate fighting force for good in the whole world. And his achievements are spectacular because the achievements of the part of the team he was with that did this for us was spectacular. They protected our freedom and our liberty, and really protected in many instances around the world. Didn't have to do that in many instances, but decided that freedom and liberty is that important. because we had some great founding fathers, but you and I know that they didn't give us that freedom and liberty. It came down from the top and was given to us as we were born. We're the greatest nation in the world, as I've said many times before, because of Jack, because of all the veterans, not our founding fathers. They're the ones who put their lives on the line so we could live those freedoms and liberties at the highest level of any group of citizens, of any country, of any part of this world. We get to live those freedoms and liberties. For that reason, Jack and his partners kept us and keep us now the greatest nation in the world. Then he came back, which is always fantastic, built this beautiful family, served his community. But I'm surprised it hasn't been mentioned yet. Married for 70 years. Married for 70 years in a world that it doesn't last 70 days. That is an unbelievable accomplishment. Many times I say the only thing in my world, in Carrie's world, and maybe where Paul lives, for the 1 year of the budget negotiations, that's the only thing that seems to last 70 years for us in New York State, okay? It's always a challenge for us. But to be married, to build a beautiful family like this, and to be part of the greatest group of individuals who kept our freedom and liberty, that's a spectacular life. And his biography shows that. The one thing I could do, and by the way, I don't think we can ever honor individuals like Jack or any of our veterans to the extent or the level that we should. Because how do you pay the men and women who were willing to sacrifice everything, and many of them did, for giving us the most important thing we have, that freedom and that liberty and that ability to build a family like he has built for you. But the one thing I can do, and I always want to explain it, is present posthumously to Jack what we call the Liberty Medal. I know some of you are from Suffolk, and you can go back and tell Senator Wyke that I gave your loved one the Liberty Medal. And I'm sure she has provided, but it's the highest award that you can achieve in the New York State Senate in New York State. It has to go before a commission. They have to go over the bio of the individual. We have to unanimously, as Senate, and let me tell you, nothing goes unanimously in the New York State Senate, okay? So you know he's a special person, have agreed to provide the highest award we can provide. And he'll go down in the chronicles and the history as receiving that award from the New York State Senate. I'm proud to present. I know you have sisters and you have brothers and you have grandchildren and extended family here. I'm going to present the citation to one of the brothers, if that's okay, because you're sitting next to each other, and put the Liberty Medal on one of the sisters, a son and a daughter. But by extension, it goes to all the family members who have supported them. So would you stand up, please? And God bless Jack O'Brien.
Thank you, Senator Tedesco. All right, I'm going to can this conversation. We're going down a road here. I know. See, my boss is looking at me going, Frankie, get this thing together. All right. Anyway, very fortunate also to have our Congressman Paul Tonko representing the 20th Congressional District, who will make a special presentation.
Thank you, Frank, and thank you for your service to the veterans in Saratoga County. Certainly, thank you, Chair Barrett, for the invitation to join with you, and Supervisor Land, thank you for painting a beautiful picture of the honoree today, and Supervisor Murray, thank you for your service to the committee, to our veterans, and to all the veterans here and veterans organizations represented, and in a special way, Chaplain Paul, who obviously was really connected to John Jack J. O'Brien. So I think O'Keefe O'Brien, there must have been somewhat of a net bond there, but just a cherished opportunity to be able to say thank you posthumously to those who have served in uniform to this nation. And so a great honor to be able to connect with the family, 6 wonderful children, and see kind of a strain of resemblance there across that front row, and grandchildren and perhaps great-grandchildren and friends, to recognize the contributions made during the Korean conflict, Korean War, as was indicated, sometimes mentioned unforgotten, but to the people of Korea, never forgotten for the assistance that the American troops provided. And to know that he assumed, to listen to Frank's rundown of the activity of the 68th Anti-Aircraft Artillery, given a huge assignment, one that became all the more difficult with the time passing in Korea. And to know that he did that, that Jack did that in a way that embraced the assignment with courage and strength and resilience, determination, and undeniable patriotism. So we salute him here this afternoon. And to know that he served as communications chief with that artillery seemed to be the theme throughout his resume, throughout his biography. Communication mentioned over and over again. And obviously, if you're married for 70 years, communication becomes a skill. And I'm told they share the same birthday, so that was a bit of communication there. But you know, to be able to be recognized by both Paul and John in a way that expressed what the community knew about them. I attended a funeral yesterday for a neighbor, and the entire community was talking about the teenage kind of love affair that went on for 62 years in that case. And when people recognize that, you know that it was a special bond, and how fortunate that you gained from that bond, because that comfort zone and that shared love gets expressed through the generations. So a great gift that they shared with each other. And so we, in a way, honor John and Janice this afternoon. And we say thank you. But to the communications team, knowing that he then went on to serve with New York Tel and Verizon, and then with the Communication Workers of America, great friends that I shall always cherish, and to know that he was a regional director. There's a voice of those who communicate, you know, the opportunities, the gifts, the freedoms for which he fought included the freedom of speech. And to be able to fight for, you know, the freedom of speech that comes via communication like that, formal communication, is a great gift that I think was imparted on him and by him. And so this afternoon, we say thank you for his great service to the country, for many, many outreach efforts into the community with not only the Korean War vets and their Adirondack chapter, but so many other opportunities to extend himself into community. And in tribute, in honor, and in memory of his service, I ask that a flag be flown over our nation's capital to honor an extraordinary citizen, John Jack J. O'Brien. That's a mouthful, but it's a tremendous opportunity. And so I thank you for his service to country and to community, and to the family and to all of his friends. I say thank you, and my hope, my prayer is that he rests comfortably in the arms of his Creator. God bless him.
Thank you. So for those that couldn't hear Chaplain O'Keefe, we are going to fly that flag once we move outside in Jack's honor for 30 days here at the county. And at which time we'll take it down, put it in a nice case and return it to the family. We do have one final presentation. Before I do that, I do want to say a special thank you to all of the folks that participated in helping us in this ceremony. Our county attorney's office, of course, Therese Conley and Bridget Ryder, the clerk of the board of supervisors, and our buildings and grounds for room setup. Of course, our county administrator's office. I mentioned the historian's office. Our public relations team, Ann Van Vorst, is here along with Christine Rush, staff at the county clerk. The list goes on. So it's not just us, it's a team effort, but a bulk of the work gets done in my office. And a big part of that is Megan Cutbush back here. I know you guys have talked with Megan. She does a nice job. Of course, Tamim Ferris, our veteran service officer and combat veteran, is back there. And Erin Cassidy is back at the office. She's catching up from a well-deserved vacation, our peer program coordinator. So thanks to my team. I get some of the accolades sometimes, but truth be told, the work is done with those folks and they do a fantastic job. So thank you. All of the efforts for veterans programming, for veteran services in Saratoga County is coordinated by a dedicated committee of supervisors, our Veterans Affairs Committee. Not every county does it that way, but we do here. And it does a couple of things. The first thing that it does is it gives us a direct audience with our supervisors, and they are engaged and aware of our needs and our services and give us the tools that we need to execute our mission. Also it gives us an opportunity to work with them on projects like this program. We've been fortunate to have a great chairman of that committee for the last couple of years. And even though he's a Navy veteran, I think Jack would have liked him as well. Supervisor Ian Murray from the town of Saratoga.
What a beautiful day and a great ceremony to honor John O'Brien. And I also too want to say thank you to everybody that makes this such a successful and meaningful ceremony. On behalf of Chairman Barrett and my fellow supervisors, the United States of America honors the memory of John J. O'Brien. This certificate is awarded by a grateful nation in recognition of devoted and selfless consecration to the service of our country and the armed forces of the United States. Signed, President Donald J. Trump.
Thank you, Supervisor Murray. One last thing inside here, we had a World War II veteran that was a big part of our program, Mr. Chris Scambati, who felt that it was appropriate to close with the singing of Amazing Grace. And fortunately for you all, Lauren Roberts is here because she's a better singer than I am. And Lauren is going to come forward and lead us. And I'd ask that you all rise. And if you'd like to join in, the words are on the back of the program.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious let grace appear. The hour I first believed, through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. 'Tis grace hath brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. That concludes the inside portion of our ceremony. I'd ask that other than family members that you'd like included in the photograph, if everyone could please move and congregate in the front walkway leading to the building for our flag raising. We'll take a quick photograph and then we'll join you outside. Thank you. Well, once again, I want to thank the family for allowing us the opportunity to tell such a great story about a great guy. And thank you all for coming out. And got a great, beautiful day for this. So special thanks to our Korean War veterans, our American Legion, our elected officials that came. And at this time, I'd ask you to all bow your heads for our closing prayer by Chaplain O'Keefe.
And now, our Heavenly Father, as we go our separate ways, we ask you to help us and guide us through all the coming days. Amen. Thank you.
Ready. Hey. Fire. 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 3, 6, fire.
Thank you all for coming. This is the end of the ceremony. We appreciate the family for allowing us the opportunity once again. Thank you.
Thank you.